Hello, this is Nick here from Gorgon Reviews. I am talking with Jerome Yoo, the director of the feature-length film Mongrels. Mongrels tells a story about a Korean father and his two children moving to the Canadian prairies to help a town deal with its feral dog population, all while making a new life in a strange land and navigating the grief of an absent mother. Thank you so much for spending time here today, Jerome.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I know it's not probably what you're expecting, but we're going to start way back, okay? What's the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
Wow. The first movie. Gosh. You know what? Back in Canada, I I feel like it's probably not the first movie. I think is it called Small Soldiers? Like
The ones with the toys came to life in
yeah,
battle?
yeah, that's right,
Mm.
that's right. That's one memory, but then like a more potent memory that I have is watching the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire with my mother. Like clearly that's not the first movie because it's like just a childhood recollection, but it's just a memorable movie because I recall how just terrifying the is it man, I'm so bad. Is it Goblin? Goblin?
The Green Goblin, yeah.
Green Goblin, yeah. I was just like so scary. So scary.
Nice. I honestly still watch Small Soldiers occasionally. I have kids, so it's great to
Right.
give that to them.
You
And
know what's so sorry. I was just thinking, like, I also clearly remember, like, I have a clear memory of the first movie I saw in movie theaters in Korea because, like, I grew up in Canada, so that was really memorable. But it was like The Host by Bong Joon-ho back in like 2005 or something like that. But it's just interesting to me to make the connection that two memorable movies of like what I saw in the theater, it's just because I was a kid that was scared, you know, just afraid and terrified. It's like yeah.
it's good it sticks with you. So you got your start in the biz with some acting. When did you know you wanted to work in the movie business?
Um, I think it was all quite by accident, actually. Going into like acting and performance, it was just sort of a hobby or pastime that I had while I was studying in university. I participated in theater a little bit as an extracurricular, and I just found that it was a happy place for me. And just again through a lot of happy accidents, I think I landed an agent and started booking some TV film work. And I think one day I was again just kind of bored. I was like writing some scripts, also because there was a bit of a Asian Canadian community of artists around me, uh, actors, in all these like different positions, directors, screenwriters, and collectively, I think we pushed ourselves to write down like little stories, and one of them became a short script for me, and it got funded by a local grant giving organization, a Story Hive. And I didn't know how to direct at the time, so I had actually pitched the script to like four different directors, friends of mine, to direct for me. Um, but no one would take it up. So then I kind of fell into it by accident, just because no one would do it. And yeah, that was my first short film, and that's kind of how I accidentally became ended up on the other side of the camera as well.
Yeah. So a hobby turned into a couple happy accidents to lead you to the directing, writing now that you're at after doing some shorts and music videos. Did you do more than one music video?
Just one music video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, was that a lot different than doing a short film?
Oh, absolutely. It was a terrifying experience for me because just having come from, telling narrative stories, with a beginning, a middle, or end, or some sort of like character journey or something like this. When I jumped into music video, it was a lot of like people telling me, you just have to make them look good and make it interesting. But then it was like, when everything felt so, like, I get it, like, I want to make it look good too, but if everything's so unmotivated, and like in one instance you're like in the middle of the street, and then like the next thing you're in the middle of space or something like that, I'm like, but how did you get there? Why are you there? Like, what is the context of this circumstance? Like, I found myself needing to answer all these questions. So just jumping right into music video, which is such a visual, forward medium, emphasized medium, it was quite the challenge. Yeah.
So, Mongrels is your first feature-length directed film, and you also wrote it, of course. Which of those two roles did you like more for this movie? Directing it or
uh
writing it?
Directing, it will always be directing. I'm not a natural writer. I must admit that I still despise the writing process. I don't think I've ever been stoked about writing, unfortunately. It's very much a process I have to participate in because I'm not able to have another partner that's able to get these ideas out of my head in the way that I envision it. And so I'm just forced to write just so that I can direct. Directing is always, when I collaborate with actors, especially coming from that background, it's what I started out directing in like the craft of directing, what I was most confident in. And to this day, it's still what I'm most confident at.
So from first concept to Mongrels to its first release, how long did that process take you?
Ah, quite a long time. I was actually reminded recently by a friend that I was even speaking about the concept and the idea for my first feature. Way back in 2018, I was writing the script for my first short film. Um, I don't remember this, but supposedly, I just remember that I had my first script complete by 2020, very much so because of grant deadline uh, that I need to apply for. So I vomited out a first draft of what I thought I wanted to make for a first feature film, but also not like completely um, sold on it yet because I think because the time that I committed to write a script and the towards like the grant deadline, it was such a short amount of time. I believe it was like a month, and I really just raced towards the finish line, not fully quite believing in everything I wrote down.
Mhm.
Um, So that was back in 2020, in the middle of COVID, was when all that happened. And then because of just the regulations and just uh, the safety of like set and the procedures that COVID entailed, we didn't shoot our film until the summer of 2022. During post productions, we went through a lot of ups and downs because of the lack of budget and all the challenges that come with, making a film with a low budget. And so we finally ended up completing the film in 2024 in the summer.
Mhm. So you set the movie in the past, the early 90s. And I'll say with films and film festivals and first time directed feature length films, usually a lot of them are kind of a personal narrative.
Yeah.
Was Mongrels a personal narrative at parts for you, or what percentage of it was maybe a personal narrative?
Um, it's definitely personal to me. Uh, I it's hard to place like an exact percentage on it. Like for instance, the circumstances of the dogs is fictional, you
Mhm.
know. The circumstance of the mother is fictional because, my mother is alive. And I would also say like the um how intense like the father is also fictional because, as much as Sonny the father reflects who my dad was to me, it wasn't quite to that extreme, of course. To me, it's like Mongrels comes out as a very personal reflection of like fragments of my childhood, fragments of like what my close friends and like other family members have felt like in their coming up in a new country, and in that way, I can't really say that everything's all personal to me. I think it's my own personal experiences alongside others um, that I have very close relations with that I think resonated with me that I wanted to, uh, yeah, weave into weave into something greater.
Yeah. You brought up the dad's intensity. I would say one particularly emotional part of the movie that really stuck with me was at the end of the second act between the father and the son, an argument between them, if you will. Um, how are you able to get those emotions out of those actors and get them in the right headspace there?
Hmm. It's really interesting you mentioned that scene because I must say like out of a lot of everything that just like seeing the result of the film now, I think it's like maybe the one scene that like came closest to what I imagined in my head. There
Mm.
was like a great deal of sensitivity, and it's just one scene, even from the writing phase, that no matter like how much a time like went by, like I would just like clearly like be able to have like a visual of like what that scene meant to me and like how I visualized it, of like how I saw that scene in real life, even happen before my eyes, really. So then I think when it came to working with my actors, because it is a bit of a stunt coordinated scene, I think safety was always the biggest priority for me because there is a bit of a stunt choreography in there. But then once the actors got comfortable with that, where like it was routine enough and choreographed heavily enough where they felt safe within this heavy action, I think that's when they can kind of turn that part of their brain off and then they can focus on their emotions, right? Because I think the last thing I wanted to do was them to be in that scene and be thinking about, their own safety or like the choreograph of like what was going to happen. So I wanted that to be just embedded within them so they're comfortable. And then I wanted to work emotions with them. And I think I just talked a lot about what when that sort of a similar thing happened to me, or what I experienced in my own life, just all the emotions that I felt and kind of relating it to anything close or similar to what they may have felt in their own lives, um, and trying to bring it closer to in terms of having that scene be relatable to them and kind of work from there.
Yeah. Also, by the nature of the story, of course, this movie featured some animals. I don't know if any of your short work in the past involved working with animals at all, or if this was your first time, but how was that experience having to also work with animals in your movie?
I love dogs, but I have to admit it wasn't like the most joyful day, on set, especially because the biggest day we had one big day with all the dogs, and it was 14 dogs on set, We had all these like off day we had preparation days leading up to it off of set, with all the dog wranglers and trainers, and to make like 14 dogs work, like that's an insane amount of prep that you have to do. And you do it in kind of like this what do you call it, like a dog playground, a dog pen, right? A fence like dog pen is like where they train these dogs, and then you put them in an open forest, right, with like squirrels running around, and it's like in this new environment, no matter uh how much like they worked on like their routine or whatever, like in the new environment they're just like dogs and they're animals, so then they're just running around excited and not doing any of the things we wanted them to do. you know so it was a bit of a challenge. It was definitely a challenge, but rewarding nonetheless to be able to work. I think some of the most beautiful moments in like cinema like converges when you're able to have like animals like work in a specific way that adds to the story or a scene, um, because it's hard to control, them and have them act, if you will. So if it all comes together, I do think it's quite a magical thing.
Mhm. Um, what are you hoping the average viewer gets out of watching this movie?
That's such a tough question. Some people would often ask me, like, just generally as a filmmaker, for all the stories that I do, it's like, oh, like, what is the message? Oftentimes, like, because the film can be so subjective, like, I think what I put into it is all these different intentions, and just see if it maybe like adds up to something. But I hope that the average viewer can take away that not all immigrant, you know, stories and experiences are one of hardship and, yeah, like there's struggle, but I think there's a lot of like love and tenderness and care. It's all very like colorful and different, and comes in many different like layers. So not all like, it's not all doom and gloom. There's different like stories and different experiences, and yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to add to this um, the stories of the Asian diaspora and the cinematic landscape.
Mhm. All right, well, finally, now that it's been out and in festivals and upcoming festivals, obviously, before getting fully released, what's your plans next going to be for movies?
Yeah, I'm working on my next two feature films. I'm just writing them out right now. The next one that I'm really heavily focused on is an adaptation of a graphic novel. The novelist is a local Vancouver novelist and author, and it's related to the coming of age genre, and there's also some sort of mythical and folktale layers in there, more animals. So it seems like that's a thread that I'm continuing to walk on in my film journey.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much for spending your time answering some questions about directing the film Mongrels, especially while you had such nice outdoor scenery. You could have been walking in a garden right now if you wanted to, I guess.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta smell the flowers sometimes.
yeah, it's playing two times at SIFF on Friday, May 16th and Saturday, May 17th. And I believe you're going to be flying up here to hang out at the screenings and answer questions after the film.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be there. I hope a lot of people come watches. The film will also be out on VOD on May 20th, I believe. So I hope if people happen to miss the in theater experience, first of
Hmm.
all, shame on you. But then you will have, I give you forgiveness, and you will have another chance to watch it on your television in your living room. Don't use a laptop.
Now, what about the watch? They can use it on their watch, right?
Oh my gosh, terrible, terrible.